Welcome to Your Infinite Health. Are you getting older?
Are you feeling it?
How would you like to do that in reverse?
We're your host,
Dr. Tripp.
And Lene.
We've run an integrative medicine practice for 13 years.
Together, we have 60 years of combined experience helping clients.
We've helped tens of thousands achieve success in health and live longer, happier lives.
In this show, we'll cover peer-reviewed and evidence-based integrative approaches to creating the health you've always wanted.
We also share professional experience we see in the field every day.
So if you're ready to feel, look, and live your best life, you're in the right place.
Welcome to Your Infinite Health podcast.
What's up, Tripp?
Hey, Lene.
Did you have a good week? You were in Lake Chuck.
Lake Chuck, yeah.
Lake Chuck this past week.
Yeah, I had a great week.
Oh, that's awesome. I have a joke.
Oh, great.
Am I
going to get this one?
Well, not likely. I need to get better in my segues, but let me I'm just so blunt. I have a joke. Okay. How does a North Pole carpenter fix something broken? Yeah, okay, you don't know. It's okay to say you don't know. We have to be vulnerable.
I don't know.
Okay, thank you. It glues together.
He glues it together?
No, igloo. It glues together. It glues together.
Too good.
So funny. So we're in kind of a movie hole. Nothing's coming out. We went to go see The Beekeeper with Jason Statham.
Yeah, right.
I was kind of scared to see that because the one little clip in the commercial was quite gross and traumatizing. But I think that was probably, that and one other scene was the worst thing in the movie.
Right. But it was actually had a fair amount of humor in it.
Well, I mean, they're about as funny as Jason Statham's about as funny as I am. I think he might.
Well, I find you funny.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, so went and did that. It's rated R, guys, but it is action intense. I wouldn't take your little kids to that at all, but if you like action and you like Jason Statham, you might enjoy it. Otherwise, nothing. My oldest son keeps us educated on what the movies are that are coming out that we are remotely interested in watching. There's a lot that I don't really care to see. I'm kind of picky, but right now we're kind of like nothing's coming out. Although Madam Web is coming out the day.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? Well, Mardi Gras. I think hers is coming out on Mardi Gras, which is the day before Valentine's Day, so we might not see it on opening day. Listener, if you're in the area, you know that like Mardi Gras is a huge deal. I swear traffic has picked up tenfold here, and they've started putting up the bleachers and getting ready for the parades, and the galas are going on, and it's an exciting time right now, although I imagine when this episode comes out all that will be over, but that's what we're going through right now. So, and it's fun, but unlike most of the people here, king cake is off the table unless you go to the keto lady who has a keto friendly king cake. You should definitely check her out. This is not a paid advertisement. I'm getting no kickback for saying that. I just know that those of us who are mindful about what we put into our body can sometimes feel left out, and she has options that you may not have considered before. So look her up, give her a call, tell her I said hey. Otherwise, we have a guest. Dun, 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 dun. Pretty excited about this guest. I always learn things I never knew.
So much
I
stuff.
never knew I might want to know. So we're going to be talking to Robert Johnson. He's the founder and CEO of premium mushroom product company Mycroboost, and that's MYCRO Boost, and supplements manufacturer Custom Capsule Consultants. He's a cannabis and hemp industry veteran, health product expert, psychedelic advocate, and seasoned entrepreneur with a 20-year track record, I can speak, of launching successful startup businesses in new and emerging markets. His pioneering product innovations and keen insights into the future of the health marketplace have made him a sought-after consultant. Laughing at me. conference speaker, and op-ed contributor. His bylines: cannabis, hemp, delta 8, kratom or kratom, depending on where you're from, and mushrooms of all kinds have appeared in Rolling Stone, Cannabis Industry Daily, MG Magazine, Natural Products Insider, Nutraceuticals World, Nutritional Outlook, and Green Entrepreneur. Listener, welcome with me, Robert Johnson. All right, Robert, thank you so much for taking some time on your Friday to come hang out with us. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
And look
Likewise.
forward.
Yeah, really excited to be here and have this conversation with you.
Yeah. Well, just off the bat, if you wouldn't mind telling the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got to be the man you are today.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Robert Johnson, and I'm the founder and CEO of the functional mushroom brand Mycroboost, spelled MYCRO Boost. The Y in there, like mycology is spelled, the study of mushrooms. And
Nice.
I run a supplement manufacturing company here in Los Angeles for the better part of 4 years now, after spending over a decade in the cannabis industry in Los Angeles and California. In fact, our companies were up and down the entire West Coast. And so, yeah, mushrooms, I feel like, are really mimicking the path that I saw cannabis go down, from starting with decriminalization, then legal for medical use, and now ultimately legal for recreational use. Anyone 21 and up in California, and now over 41 states in the United States that have some form of medical or recreational cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole career has been about legitimizing plant-based medicine by making it into products and form factors, and specifically dosages that are like medicine. You don't eat aspirin and sometimes your headache goes away, and other times, you are, tripping in the woods, right? You have
What
a
kind of
control.
aspirin are you taking? Well, where is that?
No, right. I mean, it's an example that we want to make products from plants legitimate by making them predictable and a repeatable experience, like
Right.
an aspirin. And at the same time, you don't go and chew willow bark, which is what aspirin is made from. But all of medicine really mimics nature and finds a way to take the healing properties of nature, put it into a patentable form factor in the sake of pharmaceuticals. But for alternative products, we're really harnessing the magic of nature in plants or fungi, like functional mushrooms, and just giving people an alternative to pharmaceuticals.
So, what inspired you to go into this industry? Where did you know from a young age that this is where you wanted to go? What was that spark of interest? What was that for you?
Well, at the beginning, I went to school for creative writing and graduated in 2008, moved out to LA with a fellow writer. And we were doing all sorts of different ghostwriting projects, comedy projects. And at the end of the day, we always just joked about it would be really funny to start an edibles brand called I Can't Believe It's Pot Butter. So it kind of just started as this pipe dream sort of joke. But we talked about it so often, we're like, let's try it out. And that was really where the inception began. And we were naive. We were like, maybe we can get jobs, as interns on our favorite show, like The Office, and then we'll just run this company, as a side project. We quickly found that it's really all consuming to start your own business.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just also a perfect time and place in Los Angeles. I actually moved to LA the day Barack Obama was elected, and since then, I don't know if him specifically was the change for it, but our society has been changing more towards accepting these plants that have been long maligned and
Mm-hmm.
criminalized. And, so if you're asking where it really started, probably when I first got in trouble smoking weed in high school. And I tried to explain to my parents, I think this stuff is really great, actually. And I think I'm right about it. I think the federal government is the one who's wrong about it, mom and dad. And so I feel really vindicated, 25 years later that society's coming around to my point of view on that.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Here in Louisiana, it's only available for medicinal purposes, and I don't think you can even get mushrooms for medicinal purposes.
Oh,
And it's a really sketchy thing because if you are a provider, you have to apply to be a prescribing provider, and in that application, there's all this language that informs you that while Louisiana is telling you you can prescribe, the federal government can still take your license away. So it's not really encouraged. It's still very discouraged.
Yeah, the gears of politics churn very slowly, and in 15 years in these fields, yeah, we've definitely all experienced that. Cannabis in California after legalization, was something that activists were really pushing for forever, mostly because we just never believed that it was something that people should be going to prison for, where violent offenders and real serious criminals are in there, but also the profit margins of a plant like cannabis were really based around its illicitness. And so once it becomes legal, it's moving more towards a commodity, and then the same thing that you're describing, because of these details of states legalizing but the federal government not legalizing. As these things kind of chip away one at a time, more and more bigger investors get into the space, which just makes it more competitive and more like the rest of industries out there. It's hard to start a startup to compete with Coca-Cola in the soda business. And so I think there's a lot of interesting nuance around the going from the dark side or the black market to complete mainstream acceptance and taxation. And so that's
Right.
why I find it fascinating, and why I thought it was a natural evolution to go from cannabis to mushrooms. You know, and the supplement company that we started was largely about hemp and CBD. So I think functional mushrooms are to psychedelic mushrooms what CBD is to cannabis. And as the media attention around the legalization of cannabis started spreading across the country, there was more and more attention towards CBD, which is the male cannabis plant, as the hemp plant, which produces primarily CBD heavy cannabinoids, as opposed to THC, which is the one that gets you high, the psychoactive ingredient. And so it's funny, like there was a CNN special with Sanjay Gupta in like 2014 talking about CBD, and it has all the benefits of cannabis, but without the high,
Hmm.
was basically the summary. And I got calls from my grandma, my aunts and uncles, people that knew I was in the industry. I was kind of like the black sheep of the family. And then they're like, "Hey, did you know about CBD? It's got all the benefits, but none of the high." I was like, "Yeah, been telling you
Telling
about."
you that for 20 years.
But that's what it takes. And these sort of transformational pieces of media, or really influential pieces of media, I think are what start to change people's minds. And in the past few years, there's been some real seminal pieces of media around psychedelic mushrooms. Two that I point to as like the most influential. One is a book called How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan, and he's a multiple times New York Times best-selling author. He wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma, and he's a baby boomer. He's in his mid 60s. New York, liberal journalist, and he took mushrooms maybe in college for the last time and approached psychedelics from the viewpoint of a complete skeptic. And was doing research and learned about all these life-changing claims that people were making about psychedelics, and he wanted to investigate this and find out for himself. And the conclusion of the book is he ends up, meeting tons of interesting people that he writes about and trying basically every psychedelic that comes from a plant on Earth, and realizes that he had the wrong idea, and that it really does have some truly life-changing properties to it. And so I think that that author in particular and that point of view was really the avatar for so many readers who came to it with that same sort of mindset, that they've been hearing about it, but a combination of fear, of the unknown, maybe a past experience where the amount that they took of cannabis or mushrooms or whatever was not really a controlled environment. As when we made I can't believe it's pot butter business, right? Everybody in my family that I know, if you've ever tried a pot brownie at some point, you probably had the experience where you ate it and you're like, I don't know if this is really working. Maybe I should eat more. And then, a half hour later, you've eaten a couple of brownies, and then it's way too much, and you can't really control your experience or, predict the right amount for you. And so that's what I'm all about is, rather than having these people dismiss potentially a very powerful plant for whatever ailment they have, or even just, making you happier. I always said about cannabis in my activism days, if you watch a Bill Murray movie and are laughing more and happy for 90 minutes, that's an improvement of your life. Forget about, cancer remission and arthritis and all the medical evidence that's out there about cannabinoids, but just people giving themselves the time to de-stress, laugh, and enjoy the moment.
For sure. What I think you kind of alluded to it, but specifically, what's the difference between a functional mushroom and a mushroom?
Right. So yeah, great question. So that distinction, like CBD and cannabis, a functional mushroom, also known as adaptogenic mushroom or medicinal mushroom, is something like lion's mane, right? Lion's mane, I think, is the most popular one. I think it has a really cool name that's good for marketing, but it has cognitive enhancing properties. So when people are looking at mushrooms and particularly microdosing, a couple of the scientific things that happen in your brain that people are throwing billions of dollars at to understand more and make into a product is two things that happen. One is called neurogenesis, which is like the formation of new brain cells, and then neuroplasticity, which is new connections between brain cells. And so, in extreme cases of a large psychedelic dose of mushrooms, you can have these connections that don't normally happen in extreme cases like synesthesia. And then, a psychedelic experience, people will explain being able to taste colors or see music and, these senses that are crossing that aren't normally crossing. But the medicinal, benefits of neuroplasticity, are basically rewiring our brain or shedding more awareness, I think, about the habits that we kind of subconsciously or unconsciously act out in our daily actions, which all starts in our mind. And so those two, big vocab words that psilocybin is doing on the brain, lion's mane studies have shown are also doing those sort of things. So they're proven to be neurodegenerative disease like protectants, right? So my grandparents, 3 out of 4 of them had Alzheimer's, and tons of people in this country are watching their parents' generation suffer from that. And so I think baby boomers and everybody down, they want to live as long as possible and have their brain functioning, like they're 35 forever. And so that's, I think, is one of the main reasons why people are attracted to it. So functional mushrooms, they affect your body in positive ways. And lion's mane is one that's more specifically focused on the brain, but a lot of them also are great for the gut biome. And I think, from a plant-based medicine perspective, or just from a biological perspective, so much of our health starts with our brain, but also in our microbiome, in our gut, and what you are, what you eat, but also that flora that is in our stomach, I think, can really affect our mood and our health. And so that's one of the things that mushrooms really regulate, and I think are providing all of the evidence of these health benefits.
That's cool. But the magic approach does not do that. That it does the magic mushrooms, it just gives you a enlightened consciousness experience. Is that the difference?
When I first moved to LA, I was a ghostwriter. I had this project that was a spiritual thriller, that was a metaphor about a redwood forest. And it was like a family drama, and it took this metaphor of how the redwood forest has an interconnected root system. And that was like the metaphor for this family. But really, this in nature, the redwood forest does have this connected root system, and they can send signals, nutrients, messages, to different parts of the forest that need it. And they work, not as individual trees, but a larger ecological system. And, this is my, kind of theory on describing how mushrooms work in people. But I believe that when you take mushrooms, like, they know what your body needs, and it's not the same for everybody. And so when you're taking psychedelic mushrooms or functional mushrooms, they're fungus, and human beings are more similar than us and any other animal. The way that we work in symbiosis with our environment, and also just like the temperatures at which we thrive. And so I think that we're just discovering that these things have like a natural cure. And when I was in Boy Scouts, really briefly too, we were taught, and I never forgot, that every poisonous plant in the forest has the antidote within 3 feet. And so it's
Really?
just I think that magic mushrooms are now getting this kind of, similar to many supplements or trendy supplements, this magic cure-all sort of marketing
Mhm.
push. That,
Right.
oh, you're unhappy, you're depressed, you have an eating disorder, just pop this magic pill, and everything's fine. I think the real truth of it is, it's more that the solutions for our problems are always around us. It's mushrooms are helping to bring that awareness to knowing, just like
Hmm.
that, where to find them. It's not outside ourselves either. It's within. And I think that is what the mushrooms are telling us, and consequently telling everybody, their own unique thing.
Oh, I like that. That's cool. I like that approach to, like, I didn't know the thing about the forest and the antidote being right there. That's crazy. That's awesome. Also, from having dealt with multiple obstacles and problems myself, it's hard, and maybe the mushrooms help with this, but it's hard to see a problem because you're in a certain, okay, listener, going to be a little woo woo here, just bear with me. When you're in a certain stress state, of a lower vibrational state, because this thing that's happening is not what you prefer. When you're in that perspective, it's difficult to get to the solution, which may be at a higher vibrational level. I said it, deal with it, because the solution is more of a positive frequency than the problem that you're having. So, looking at what you're saying, the mushroom being able to kind of enhance your awareness to the solutions that are already available to you is a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, you asked about my motivation, and it's really self improvement. That's what motivates me. And there's a lot of I don't know, clicks or groups that develop around anything. For a while I was into motorcycles. I liked riding a motorcycle, but I go and start hanging out with a bunch of motorcyclists. Like, that's not my vibe necessarily. I like smoking cannabis, but when cannabis becomes marketed like beer commercials, and that they're just using the same boring sex and opulence to sell their brand, like that's not what I relate to. But I'm more about using these plants that were if you believe in a higher being or a creator, like they're here naturally for us to use. And I'm just all about people that want to be the most realized version of themselves. And I'm kind of a radical in that I like to use these fringe substances and really fight for them and defend them as a way to shake people out of that low vibration that you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about. So I don't think it's a magical thing, but I think it is some of the most powerful tools that we have to break those habits, because the habits and what we tell ourselves is the most powerful thing that our entire reality is built around. And in sales with my staff and stuff, if people tell me hey, it's hard out there, people aren't buying, or oh, I'm having a great week this week, everybody wants to talk to me, I always tell people, like, whatever you tell yourself, you're right.
Right.
And that you keep telling yourself that, and it's going to continue to be more and more that's the reality that you're going to see.
Speak it till you see it.
And maybe it's that neuroplasticity that you were talking about that allows the maybe a wider perspective for individuals who may be coned in on a lifestyle and they don't have that awareness. And so that just allowing that for a couple of few hours allows them to transcend those levels and be able to be more productive in different areas that they weren't able to before, simply because of a better mindfulness of a reality that they weren't aware of.
I totally agree. And I think when you get into a mindset, it can be just really, really repeated.
Well, so for somebody who's never like I've never done anything. Not to say that I didn't want to. I just haven't. So for somebody that was interested in like starting the microdosing or even trying it, like where would they even go? Because I don't know anybody. Like I'm not around people who do that. So, and I know I'm not the only one. So, what's the recommendation there?
So this is the real interesting thing that's going on right now, and I'm working on a book about the confluence of interest and all the different angles that investors and people are taking for this right now. So the answer is, legally right now in Colorado and Oregon, mushrooms have been legalized for medical use with a trained therapist, and you can sign up for between $2,000 $5,000. You have a 5-6 hour session with the trained therapist there to kind of guide you through that experience. Similarly, there's a bunch of cities that have decriminalized mushrooms, so that just makes it like a low priority for enforcement. It's not legalizing it, but so the country is starting to move in that direction. And so consequently, there's a bunch of entrepreneurs and forward thinking people that are like, all right, well, there's this demand for it. Like, we're going to, assume that it's moving in the direction like cannabis did. And, really the truth of the matter is that if you have a successful cannabis company in California or anywhere, like, you've got that experience from years of when it wasn't legal, you know, and when the opportunity to run a legit operation presented itself, the people that had all that experience cultivating it, making it into products, they had a real head start. Now, big money comes in and they can catch up and surpass a head start pretty quickly. So consequently, there's places all over the internet, Instagram, Etsy, where people are selling mushroom products now, and the path towards regulating them is underway, but just in a lot of different timelines based on state by state. But in Oakland, it's been decriminalized. I think it was the first city in America to decriminalize mushrooms, and they have an entheogenic church that they've opened there. It's called Zide and they have like over 100,000 members. I wrote an article about the founder. In fact, I worked with him in cannabis 13, 15 years ago. I made products and he had a dispensary. So essentially what it is a dispensary of mushrooms functionally, but legally it is a religion. And they're using this a loophole like that protects Native Americans from using peyote ceremonially, is the same sort of thing that they're building their business model on. And the guy, he dresses as a pastor, is
He must have
really
gotten that idea from Ron L. Hubbard.
yeah. I mean, they're
I
he
see
was
where
on.
he's going with this.
Yeah, he was on Fox News with a extremely conservative host, really grilling him, and it's like, well, what if I started the church and crystal meth was my supplement of choice? So yeah, but the truth is, I think that he realizes and really has had a spiritual relationship with the mushrooms, where the mushrooms are telling him that he needs to risk federal prison to get this to as many people as possible, and really be a pioneer. And that's what it takes with these emerging industries. The pioneers get the arrows, and then the settlers get the land. But they're essential, for forward progress.
Sure. Well, in that domain, I mean, and maybe I don't know if this is applicable given the regulatory situation most of the nation is in, but how do you or how would one make sure that they're dosed properly, right?
Yeah, also extremely important question. And when I first started in cannabis and would go into dispensaries, there was no universal unit of measurement. In fact, it was all just like arbitrary measurement systems. And you would go into a dispensary, and a brownie would say, this is a 5x strength brownie, or this root beer is 10 skull and crossbones strong. And no
Wow.
idea what that means. And so, even at a young age, right out of college, we realized that wasn't good. And because of impending regulation and legalization, legalization was first on the ballot in California in 2010. And there was a lot of talk about how the bureaucrats, they didn't really know how to regulate edibles, because it's a food, and there's a different regulatory agency for food. And this unit of measurement was making people have completely radically different experiences and not consistent. And so they were talking about, like, what, when we legalize, maybe we'll just get rid of edibles altogether. And so that was totally threatening for our business. So we started a trade organization for edibles manufacturers in California, got all of them together and met with Steep Hill Labs, which is one of the first labs in the country that was testing for THC. They test CBD and all sorts of different cannabinoids. But we contacted them and we said, hey, we want to start a trade association where every batch of edibles needs to be tested. Can we have the meetings at your place? And they were so excited because testing was not law and not regulation, almost nobody did it. And so we had to come in and self-impose our own guidelines and regulations, and all agreed, like, this is how we're going to put it on the packaging. Each gummy has 10 milligrams of Delta 9 THC, not, some, just arbitrary unit of measurement. And that's why today, you go into a dispensary and everything is labeled milligrams of THC. So now fast forward, 10, 12 years later, mushrooms are in the same position. People are making these things on the gray market, let's say, but they're not required to measure or test the psilocybin or psilocin, like the active ingredients in those psychedelic mushrooms. But I know Zydor, for one, is really forwarding that education by now making all the products that they have in their store list the milligrams or micrograms of psilocybin and psilocin, because that is what is going to, dictate your experience. Because not all cannabis is the same strength and effects. Similarly, not all mushrooms are the same. It really depends on, that unit of measurement of the actives in there. So, I think microdosing is popular because so much of the reticence to try mushrooms is about the fear of freaking out, and a microdosing, I think, for people, they understand it. Like, instead of jumping into a ice cold lake and, wondering what that's going to be like, you can kind of dip your toe in there and, take a small piece, really figure out your measurement, until it becomes ubiquitous that everybody is putting, the amount of actives on their packaging. I just recommend, start small, because like that pot brownie in 1975, like, if you eat the half the tray, you can't return it. You can only eat a little bit more.
Right. So it's really up to the user to be mindful of what they're ingesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easy place to start is with functional mushrooms. If your listeners are interested in the power of fungi and how it can help them, help their brain, help their mood, and their overall health, functional mushrooms are legal, and you can get them anywhere. And they're 20 on our website. I think our products range between $20 and $40. People always ask me, like, is this going to work for me? And because of my real belief about it working differently for each people, it's just like, hey, if this really could improve your happiness and your health, and the cost to find out is $20, like, I think it's worth it.
Right. And so your products, it's an oral tablet or powder, or how does that work?
Yeah, our most popular product is mushroom coffee. And it works like instant coffee, where you just take a tablespoon and stir it into your hot water. But each one of our servings of mushroom coffee, and actually it tastes really good too. A lot of mushroom coffee on the market, we've tasted it, kind of tastes like mushrooms or dirt. We wanted to have something that was, going to be as popular, or something that people would actually replace their coffee habit with, which is, the strongest habit there is of any drug on the planet, as far as humans are concerned.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it's a delicious, like, cacao base, and then there's 3,000 milligrams of mushrooms per serving. And we have a combination of 5 different mushrooms: lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, reishi, and turkey tail. So that's our most popular form factor. We also make vegan soft gel supplements that have 1.5 grams of mushrooms per pill, and then some really tasty mushroom gummies as well. I feel like the mushroom gummies have been a good gateway mushroom product for people, that they try that, they're, realize, oh, that actually tastes pretty good. And, gives me a little boost of energy or cognitive enhancement. And, then start trying everything that we offer.
Cool. I've not had mushroom coffee. I may have to look into that.
Oh, yes. Please, just send me your address after the call, and we'll send you a nice care package.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, what have I missed? What have I not? I feel like think we've run the gamut. What is one thing that you would like the listeners to know?
Well, I mean, I think that that educating themselves is really important. And for these emerging industries, like, the most time consuming part of it is education, right? And with CBD, when CBD became popular, probably 100 times a day, people would walk into a CBD store and ask, like, will this get me high? And you kind of have to have that 101 education with people, one person at a time. And so on our website, we try and write a bunch of informative content. I have a new article about how to read a mushroom label, because in supplements, there's a lot of chicanery, and I've been doing, supplements outside of cannabis now for 4 years, and people would contact me all the time and, want to put trendy ingredients into supplements. And, I'd research them. And this is part of how I got into mushrooms as well. And, I'd say like, hey, we could put lion's mane, ashwagandha, elderberry, all these trendy ingredients in there, but there's not going to really be a significant amount of any one of them to have much of a therapeutic effect. And their answer is like, yeah, well, we want label claims so we can market that there's, all these terms that have high SEO, so people will go and buy them. And it just doesn't make sense to me that, you would want to trick a customer, or even just like invest in acquiring a customer to give them a placebo at best. And so I really, I'd love people to buy Mycroboost, but there are other awesome products out there, functional mushroom products. And I just want people to understand how to identify the quality that's in there, the quality of the mushrooms, knowing how much, you really need to take to have benefit from it. Because what I saw with the CBD industry is there was such a rush of people to cash in on this new trendy thing, that there was a ton of products that were made that were not very high quality. And consequently, people try that, and that's their experience. And then they write off, CBD as beneficial at all, when it's really about the quality. So it's just all about, finding the right dosage for you. Same thing with cannabis or mushrooms. If you had a overwhelming experience 30 years ago, that doesn't mean that microdosing or Bill Murray and a joint isn't going to improve your life.
Do you have any questions?
No, that was good though.
All right. Where can our listeners find you and more about your product?
Yeah, mycroboost.com, MYCRO Boost, also on Instagram at Mycroboost. And then if you're interested more about the psychedelics, I write for Rolling Stone, and you just search at Robert Johnson, Rolling Stone psychedelics. I have 9 articles on mushrooms up there. Some of them are about functionals, but a lot of them about, just like what we've been talking about. What is happening with the emergence of these newly legal or soon to be legal products? Who's investing, and also, kind of understanding, what is truth and what is marketing.
Right.
There is no magical cure, and if anyone says so, then I would really be skeptical of it. And so, yeah, that's the focus of my writing, and just my passion for sharing with people like you and your listeners and anyone who will listen.
Well, awesome.
Awesome.
I learned
Yeah.
a lot. Thank you so much for
Likewise.
educating us on this. Listener, I hope you found this informational, educational, somewhat entertaining, and until next time.
Thanks for subscribing to Your Infinite Health. I'm Dr. Tripp.
And I'm Lene. Until next time, feel it, look it, and live it.